On March 16, 2018, the UMBC Retrievers shocked the world, becoming the first 16 seed in tournament history to knock off a 1 seed, 75-54. And this hasn't been the only shocker in the first 2 rounds of this year's NCAA men's tournament. Only 2 number 1 seeds survived the tournament's first weekend. That's the fewest since 2004. When 538's Neil Payne computed the squared difference between this year's number of Sweet 16 teams at each seed and the historical average for every year since 1985, he concluded that this is the most aberrant distribution of seeds in any modern tournament. So what's making this year's tournament so unpredictable? Is there a method to this March's madness?
So this has been somewhat of a strange tournament. It could just be this is a random event, a random set of events that looks like it's some pattern that just happens to be like seeing 6 or 7 heads flipped in a row.
Jeremy Arcus is an economist and a researcher who has been studying something called the hot hand in basketball for almost 2 decades. He believes that the hot hand effect and a bias against it could help explain a lot of the unpredictability of March Madness.
So the hot hand is a state in which a player is just playing better than normal. And so he or she would have a higher than normal chance of making a shot. And from my experiences, it's more than just shooting better, but it's also having a better handle of the ball and a better court sense. So it's like a Zen-like level of play called being in the zone, or some say en fuego, or on fire.
The case for the hot hand effect is a complicated one to make, and something that has been contested throughout history. For the first 25 years of study, most statisticians concluded that the hot hand is a myth, a figment of human imagination, and cannot be proved within existing datasets. However, by 2010, the tide started turning. A new school of thought emerged, with a new set of statistical data. Jeremy Arcus and his colleague Dan Stone were among the first few researchers to write about how the hot hand really does exist.
Pretty much all players and fans believe in the hot hand, and it's pretty much confirmed by certain events such as Klay Thompson of the Golden State Warriors had a 37-point quarter a few years ago, breaking an NBA record where he went 10 for 10 on three-pointers.
Curry catches, three-pointer.
It's no secret that the three-point shot is now more popular than ever in the NBA. And Arcus feels this is also something that could be adding to the randomness of this tournament. He looked at NCAA Division I season statistics and found an interesting trend.
College basketball has really followed the trend of the NBA, that there's much greater reliance on the three-point shot. So right now, I just looked at some stats yesterday, and 37.5% of all field goal attempts are three-pointers. And that's up about 3.5 percentage points from 3 years ago, and it's even up 1 percentage point, more than 1 percentage point from last year. And so with more three-point shots, it just introduces greater randomness into the process, and that can really lead to more upsets.
Take NC State's upset win against North Carolina, where Alaric Freeman went 7 for 7 from beyond the arc. The hot hand effect there is almost undeniable. The hot hand effect can even be extended to teams experiencing momentum, or lack of it, going into the tournament. Arcus and his colleague published an article highlighting this phenomenon and how seeding can sometimes be decided without taking these effects into consideration, resulting in upsets that aren't really upsets at all.
And so we basically find that teams that are hot going into the tournament, that is, they're playing well, that they tend to do better than what their seed would dictate. And teams that are cold going into the tournament, not playing that well, tend to do worse than what their seed would dictate.
They base these findings on data from 2000 through 2016, but Arcus says they could apply to this current tournament too.
We weren't surprised that Auburn, Alabama, Arizona State, and Oklahoma lost pretty early in the tournament, that these teams weren't playing very well. They were basically cold going into the tournament. One team that was hot going into the tournament was Houston. So they were a 6 seed, and they almost beat Michigan, the higher seed Michigan, which was a 3 seed, but then they lost on that buzzer beater.
Still, not every upset can be explained, and eventually, some things are just, well, random.
As Tony Bennett, the Virginia coach, said, that once you're in the arena, then anything can happen. And eventually the absolutely unbelievable is going to happen.
Hey, NBC News viewers, thanks for checking out our YouTube channel. Subscribe by clicking on that button down here, and click on any of the videos over here to watch the latest interviews, show highlights, and digital exclusives. Thanks for watching.